Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first episode of the DRS Zone podcast. We're going to be talking about the Mexican Grand Prix today, along with a few questions from you guys from Instagram, and then we're going to be giving our guest a quiz to test his F1 knowledge. So today, I'm joined by Jean Luc. How are we today?
Yeah, not bad. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. I'm good. Mexican Grand Prix. Thoughts?
Yeah, a bit dull, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, candidate for worst race of the season?
Oh, it's up there.
Yeah, I mean, not really much going on. I mean,
No, there was loads of not hype, but everyone was a bit excited because Mercedes looked a lot better, and for a time in the race, the top six cars were in
yeah,
P1 to 6, which has rarely happened this year with penalties and all that kind of thing. But the Ferraris just weren't really on it. But yeah, no, there was loads of hype with the Mercedes going into it, and just didn't really turn out to.
no, I think a lot of the hype came from the potential fight going into turn one, which never really materialised. I think the straight line speed of the Red Bull just sort of took away from that maybe potential like 3 or 4 wide going into turn one that everyone thought.
Yeah, I think Verstappen did really well, to be fair to him off the line. He got a good start, and he moved swiftly over to the right to break the toe that Hamilton had. And I mean, obviously, with the speed the Red Bull has in a straight line, it's going to be hard for the Mercedes to get past going into turn one anyway. So without that toe, it was near enough impossible. And yeah, he pretty much just took it from there.
Yeah. So I mean, if we look back towards the start of the weekend, I mean, we had qualifying, which, to be fair, looked like it was going to be very interesting, especially in Q2 when there was like the top 5 were within like a tenth of a second of each other. Looked quite interesting, but again, bit like the race, that sort of anticipation maybe going into Q3 that again never really materialised.
Yeah, I mean, Q3 was all right. I mean, the Aston Martins were both out in Q1.
Yeah, I mean, considering their decent pace last week, I think was a bit disappointing for them.
Just shows you how much switches from track to track.
Yeah, different tracks, different altitude, teams struggling, especially, Ferrari as well. Their pace seemed to have disappeared for this weekend.
Apparently, yeah, I think they were running a lower engine mode or something. I don't know if they were worried about
it was I think they were probably worried about
overheating.
Yeah, overheating issues, maybe issues with cooling the engine. Yeah. Obviously, at high altitude, thin air. Yeah. A lot of maybe reliability issues. Surprised that there weren't more retirements because of those reliability issues, to be fair.
Yeah. Apparently, the setup, they got it all wrong as well. They put in the setup and it was too late to change it. So
yeah, I think once you commit, you've just got to stick with it and just do as best as you can, to be fair, which I think they did, to be fair, maximise, what they could have done, really. Obviously, Bottas splitting them in quali, but once again, Bottas showing some really nice pace in quali.
Yeah, the Aston Martin looked good all weekend. I mean, Joe didn't quite get up to Valtteri's level, but
no,
I suppose Valtteri's experience and that kind of thing got him through into Q3, and he was flying.
Yeah, he was. But I think a poor start from him. I just don't think the Alpha looked like it had much pace race wise. I think he did pretty well to get some points out of it, though.
Yeah, he got off the line poorly, lost a couple of spaces, and he was told quite early on that the strategy was to go long.
Yeah.
And didn't really do much. He sort of fell victim to Ricciardo's late onslaught.
Yeah.
And ended up dropping back. Finished 9th, or was it 10th?
I think it was 10th.
Yeah, so dropped 4 places, which isn't ideal, but
no.
Even with Alonso retiring as well.
Yeah, so but I mean, I think as you mentioned there, Daniel Ricciardo's charge. I think that's probably going to be our main talking point about the Grand Prix, since I mean, nothing really happened during the race apart from lap 51 where things started to get interesting. Ricciardo charging through the field and a collision with Yuki Tsunoda, which sent Tsunoda out of the race, had to retire after coming back into the pits with terminal damage. 10-second penalty for Ricciardo. Was that maybe a little harsh?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's probably just a 10-second because Tsunoda was had got taken out of the race.
Yeah, I think the forcing a car to retire probably meant that the penalty was a bit more extreme than probably it should have been. I think maybe 5 seconds would have been fine. I think he admitted in his press conference after the race that it was, probably his fault. I think he wasn't, looking for a rash dive. He was just hoping to just keep the, wing up the inside. But I think Tsunoda was just, too cautious of, making sure he didn't lose the place, I think.
Yeah.
Turned in, obviously, contact. Didn't stop Ricciardo, though. No real damage. And then went on a charge, which was probably the only entertaining thing in the Grand Prix, really.
Yeah, he had the softs on and he was flying, which we haven't really seen a lot of from him this year. And,
I think it was, for me, it was nice to see. I think a man who's clearly lacked confidence, a few poor races, bit of bad run of form. I think clearly looks like a man who needs a break, really. But it was nice to see like his old self in a way, in terms of showing the pace that we know he can. I thought brilliant drive to get back up to P7. I think provided entertainment where there wasn't much in the Grand Prix, so a few overtakes. And yeah, I thought it was nice to see him back to his former self.
Yeah, I felt a bit bad for Paul Lando because he was told to let Daniel through, and that, on the assumption that he wouldn't make up the 10 seconds for the penalty and still finish behind him. But he was a bit of a rocket out there.
Yeah,
so
I feel like he took the looked to me like he took the penalty a bit personally. Thought, oh, you give me 10 seconds, right? Let's just go and make that worthless. But yeah, I thought it was an excellent drive from him, to be fair. Something that we haven't really been able to say for a long time, which I thought was nice.
No, yeah, it was nice. I was really optimistic for him and McLaren when he went there, but other than sort of Monza, it's not really worked
out. But obviously getting into P7 because of lap 65, which forced Alonso to retire with an engine failure. I thought another man who had a very good weekend, Alonso. I thought very nice weekend in the US. Obviously got his points reinstated after the appeal. Drove very well again today. Sort of seemed to struggle in early parts, but then seemed to just find some pace and go with it. And then obviously unfortunate that his race was, cut short, really.
Yeah, I mean, he, in the early part of the race, was stuck in that little mini battle that involved Lando Norris. And
yeah, bit of a train.
Yeah, the DRS trains that tend to form at Mexico. Not my favourite thing, but
Yeah.
But yeah, no, he did well. On the track, he was getting a bit mouthy off of it, but
just a bit unfortunate with the his luck in the Alpine this season with that reliability issues that he's clearly had virtually all season, man.
Yeah, he wasn't very happy on the team radio.
No, he wasn't. But yeah, I mean, that was really it for the Grand Prix. Not of we could talk about Mercedes' weird choice in strategy. I mean, what did you make of that?
Well, to be fair, sort of early stages of the race, it looked like not a bad call because the Red Bulls would obviously have had to have pit earlier. They just reversed them, weren't they? So Mercedes were going to go long on the softs. Yeah. Which could supposedly go 50 laps. Yeah. I think they were planning on going long, and then Red Bull were just going to do the soft stint early. Yeah. And then go long after that. But
I think what Mercedes had in mind, I think, was the Ricciardo sort of situation. Yeah. Like he went long on the mediums and then went on to softs. But I think sort of Mercedes felt that, I think they were sort of, you know, forced into it slightly by the fact that they, you know, had to sort of pit Lewis. Otherwise, he probably would have lost a position to Checo. And I think Mercedes, feeling that obviously the speed of the Red Bull, didn't really want to, you know, get stuck behind him, which I think sort of forced them into a move away from the strategy that they maybe wanted.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that they probably should have just, you know, stuck with it. They committed to it, stick with it. And, you know, you saw the pace that Ricciardo had. I mean, if Hamilton had rocked up behind Perez on those softs, I think he would have been fine getting past him.
Yeah, I think obviously hindsight's a wonderful thing, but I think if they had carried on, stuck with it, just naturally because of Hamilton's pace anyway, I think he would have caught whatever gap he had to Perez and passed him. Verstappen, potentially not, but Ricciardo was flying in that McLaren, so Mercedes hasn't been phenomenal this year, but it was going well around Mexico, and you felt like with the soft tyres on.
Another step in the right direction, though. You know, getting close back-to-back P2s for Lewis. They seem to sort of be rectifying the issues from earlier in the season, getting better. But obviously, you know, a podium of Max, Lewis and Checo in his home Grand Prix, obviously, this weekend. Max, 14 wins in a season, record, beating Schumacher and Vettel's 13. Very dominant year from him. Good race again. I thought he controlled the medium stint at the end very well in terms of tyre deg.
Yeah, I mean, I think it just goes back to how good the Red Bull is. Max drove pretty well, but I mean, I don't think with hard tyres, medium tyres, I think that it was just too fast. Whatever Mercedes put on, you can say, maybe they'd have come back with the soft tyres. Maybe they would have, but at Red Bull, like you saw, Max was clearly lifting, coasting, preserving the tyres. Because I think at some point near the end, Lewis was like starting to sort of close the gap, and then I think Max was told if you need to get going, you can, and then he did, and it was just...
I mean, I think ultimately the Red Bull just had a bit too much pace this weekend, but I definitely think we're seeing Mercedes getting a bit closer, which is quite nice to see.
Yeah.
Obviously, as we've, you know, said, not the best race. I mean, one of the worst of the season. I think maybe, if not the worst, bit boring.
Yeah.
Summed up by the man himself, Goatifi. Somewhat of a meme, obviously, this season with his bad performances, I guess. Summed up a fairly bad race just in his race. I mean, what have we got here? 2 seconds behind the race leader. 2 seconds? 2 laps behind the race leader. Lapped by his teammate who finished P12 and finished 58 seconds behind P17. Not a great race from him. Once again in his interview, blamed it on damage. I'm not really sure. You know, I feel like it would have been terminal damage to be that far behind. I just think the man, I don't know. I love him, obviously.
He's special.
Beautiful meme, special man, but yeah, not great from him again this weekend.
No, I mean, he's not had any great weekends, has he?
No. I just don't think the man... I think it's right for him not to be in Formula 1 next year. As much as I do love him and as much as he does entertain people, I think in terms of just, you know, race pace, he's just not on it really.
Well, yeah, if his teammates lapping him.
Yeah, it's never a good
more
sign.
pace in the car, isn't there? So
no.
Get someone else in.
Yeah, so I think if we're going to rate the Mexican Grand Prix out of 10? 4.
Maybe less.
I'd go with a 2.5 or 3. I mean, there wasn't really much to shout about. I was just very bored. But yeah, hopefully for Brazil and Abu Dhabi, we'll have a bit more to talk about Mexico. You know, a bit more to talk about. Hopefully, a better Grand Prix. I think Brazil always delivers. You know, maybe famous last words there, but hopefully not. So I think we'll move on to some questions that I've got off Instagram of people. Because, you know, there's not really much else to talk about the Mexico Grand Prix. I think we'll move on. Best race so far this season, and I will not allow you to say Mexico.
Well, I wasn't going to because
I'd be shocked if you did.
Best race. I'm gonna go Silverstone.
Yeah.
I just think it wasn't a sprint this year, was it?
No. But
Someone's got pole, right? Yeah, no, I just think it had a bit of everything. I mean, it was at that sort of time in the year where Mercedes looked so bad, and then they bought an upgrade to Silverstone and looked a bit better.
Yeah.
And then obviously Verstappen didn't do too well.
He never does.
He
at
took
Silverstone.
damage. He took damage, and he finished a bit further down.
He never does at Silverstone. It's all like it seems to be a bogey weekend for him usually. But obviously, I would have to agree with you. I think Silverstone's probably one of the most entertaining races every year. But this year, especially with the safety car at the end, Leclerc defending from Perez and Hamilton. I think it gave the fans a bit of everything, drama to the end, a lot of overtakes, a lot of incidents. I think it's very hard to look past that as the best Grand Prix.
Yeah, had the weather held as well.
Which
rare at Silverstone.
Yes, definitely. Keeping circuit theme, another question here is, what would be your dream location for an F1 track?
They've all got taken up, haven't they? They've got a Las Vegas one now.
Yes, which is coming next year, which might be interesting.
You go first.
I've always said that I know that, and the reason this is a dream is because I don't think it will ever happen. But I would love a London street circuit. I think maybe down towards Buckingham Palace or through Regent Street or round the centre of London. I think would be maybe across the London Bridge, something like Tower Bridge, something like that. I think it would be a brilliant spectacle. I think the reason it would never happen is the logistics of it. Obviously, having to close London for a whole weekend, that especially the centre of London, I don't think would work. But that's personally what I would love to see. I'd love to see something like that, or maybe even have it near the summer break, but maybe a Scandinavian Grand Prix. Don't think we've seen something like that before, so I think that'd be interesting.
Very cool.
What about you? Maybe one that they could bring back or completely new.
I like Malaysia. I know some people don't. But, I do like Malaysia. If we brought it back,
I think it'd be a decent one.
A bit poor for a dream location, but
no, I mean
maybe South Africa.
Bringing back South Africa would be quite good. To be fair, I mean, I think as you said, a lot of those, bigger places are now getting Grand Prix, like your Las Vegas, your Miami's. I think maybe exploring maybe a little bit more of, Africa or, Asia. That might be quite good. Maybe somewhere in like New Zealand or something. But yeah, I think definitely the main places have Grand Prix. But I think I'd love to see something like that. Maybe a London Grand Prix, but I don't think it would ever happen really. Current circuits on the Grand Prix that we have in the calendar. Top 3 circuits on this year's calendar, and top 3 worst circuits on the calendar based off this season. If I come to you maybe for your top 3 best circuits, what would you go with this season?
Hate to bang on about it, Silverstone.
Yeah,
It's
obviously already covered that one.
always good racing.
Yeah.
So that's got to be up there. I like Brazil.
Yeah, I think Brazil's a very good. I'm hoping for a good one this year. Brazil always delivers. Good fans.
Yeah.
Love their Formula One. Typically, always a very good race as well.
I like Kota.
Kota, it is always a good one. The drivers really like it. Very demanding circuit.
Yeah.
I would definitely say, I definitely agree with you on Silverstone. I think I'd agree with Brazil as well. I think I always love the Brazilian Grand Prix. I'd maybe throw Spa in the mix. I always love Spa. Maybe it doesn't always post the most entertaining races, but I think, the history of Spa, everything about it, always seems to deliver. Obviously, a few years ago, not delivering due to a wet race, but I think always good. I'd say based off this year, I'd probably say Bahrain as well. I think recently, it's delivered some very, very good races in recent history. Obviously, 2014, you had the battle with Rosberg and Hamilton. 2021, you had the battle between Max and Lewis. And then obviously this year, we had a really good battle between Leclerc and Verstappen. So I think, based off this year, it's an outside shot. I think Bahrain's definitely delivered in the last few years. On the other end of the scale, circuits that haven't delivered.
Paul Ricard, Monaco, Singapore.
Yeah, I'd tend to agree. I think Monaco, the prestige of it maybe, but races themselves
Always
never
boring.
really entertaining.
Yeah.
You're hoping for a crash, which is probably something you shouldn't hope for in F1. But that's really the only way they really get interest in Monaco.
Like this year as well. I mean, the only thing that makes Monaco a little bit more interesting is rain.
Yeah.
And then it starts raining 5 minutes before the formation lap. But instead of letting them go for it, delay it for an hour.
Yeah.
And then start it behind the safety car.
Yeah.
When it wasn't that much rain.
No.
So
And then everyone just stays behind each other, I think. Bit unfortunate. I'd definitely say in terms of bad races this season, obviously you said your 3. I'd agree with Monaco 100%. Paul Ricard, it never does seem to deliver. I mean, the races there haven't been very interesting. Singapore, again, typically puts in some really nice qualies, but then, again, races never really deliver. Based off this weekend, I'm definitely going to put Mexico in the mix. I mean, I don't think many have been worse than it this season.
Even last year, Mexico was a bit boring.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't think. I don't know. For some reason, I think maybe high altitudes and needing a bit more downforce just means there's not as much action. I don't think really. But final question that we're going to go with for today is the best livery, this season's liveries, best livery on the grid, and I will allow you to include special liveries, i.e. the Ferrari and the McLaren one. Any immediate thoughts on the best ones this season?
This season, I haven't really liked any of the special ones this season, and everyone else sort of just has their standard one, don't they? I mean, in the past, McLaren have done some really nice ones, and Red Bull did that really nice white one in Turkey last year. But you know what? I like I love simple.
Yeah.
And I just like AlphaTauri. So
Yeah.
I like the colour scheme.
The colour scheme is nice.
The navy and white. It's just
it's quite nice to be fair. I would go with I'd probably go with the special McLaren livery. I think they did a really good job with it. I like the different colours on it, the black, the pinks. I did really enjoy it. I think they definitely seem to nail it. I always love a car that you can easily identify. I think McLaren do a really good job of that, making sure like you know exactly what sort of car that is. I think if I was going along the lines of simplicity, I'd probably go with the Alfa Romeo. I think similar to you. I just really like the shade of red they went with, just nice and simple design with the white and red. I think it works quite nicely. Would you have a worst livery of the season? Haas, yeah. I think I'd definitely go with Haas as well. I mean, very, very generic. Maybe Red Bull at the same time, even though it's a decent design. I think it's the same design every year, which I think is a bit of a shame. If they did something different with it, it'd be quite nice.
Actually, you know what? I'm gonna go back on that. It's not the okay. I'm not gonna go back on that, but it's not the worst one. But why did Mercedes go back to silver? I mean, I know Mercedes originally was silver.
It is the silver arrows.
The black is just so good.
Is very good. I mean, the classic Mercedes obviously is the silver. I really enjoyed the black. Obviously, they've kept the black overalls,
which I think is weird.
But gone back to a silver car, which is a bit weird. But yeah, I would have liked to seen the black stay. I think that was definitely one that I thought should have stayed.
Can we bring back the W11 as well while we're at it?
Yeah, it'd be quite nice, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Obviously, guys, I am a Lewis Hamilton fan. Jean Luc the same. Mercedes as well. Obviously, I support Mercedes due to Hamilton. Support him everywhere he goes. So that's why we're a bit wishful thinking about that W11 coming back. That would be nice. So we're going to move on to our final segment, guys, which is a quiz that I'm going to do every week with different guests, testing 10 questions on their F1 knowledge, and we're going to create a leaderboard to see who has the best overall F1 knowledge. So we're going to do 10 questions. The first 6 are going to be modern questions, with the last maybe 1 or 2 of them being slightly more challenging, and then moving into the last 4, which are going to be more 2010 or further back. A bit of see how good your F1 knowledge is of F1 history. So if we go with question 1, hopefully should be able to rattle through these. Who won the 2013 Drivers' Championship?
Seb Vettel.
He did indeed. Question 1 is complete. Question 2, at which circuit did Hamilton finish the race famously on 3 wheels?
Silverstone.
Yep, 2 out of 2. Question 3, other than Perez and Verstappen, who was the last Red Bull driver to win a Grand Prix?
So many of them. Daniel Ricciardo.
It was Daniel Ricciardo, 2018, Monaco. Obviously, I think they've had Gasly and Albon since then. Didn't really perform. Question 4, how many races did Ferrari win in 2020?
Last?
Not last year, the year before. During that
illegal engine.
COVID year.
Yeah. Don't you mean 2019 or 2020? The COVID year?
Yeah, the COVID year 2020. Obviously, 2019 was the potential, the illegal engine. 2020, how many races did they win?
0.
They did. That is correct. They didn't win a race.
So I was confused whether it was 2019 or 20.
No.
2019 they had the engine, but
no, 0 race wins. Which moves on to, can you name the 4 teams that the 4 constructors that won races in 2020?
AlphaTauri.
Correct.
Mercedes.
Yep.
Red Bull.
Yep.
AlphaTauri, Mercedes, Red Bull. Trying to think 2020. Is there any surprise ones? Don't think McLaren got one in 2020. Don't think Alpine did either. Oh wait. No, that was last year. I don't know.
Racing Point. Sergio Perez.
Oh, he won the Sakir Grand Prix. Oh,
He did indeed.
Of course.
3 out of 4, so can't give it you. But very close. AlphaTauri was obviously Gasly and not Monaco, Monza.
Mm-hmm.
So question 6: who got the most fastest laps in 2018?
Lewis Hamilton. Oh, 2018. Sorry. Valtteri Bottas.
It was Bottas with 7. So that is 5 out of 6 for the more recent questions. Now we move on. The first 2 are still, what would in F1 history, are fairly recent. When did Hamilton win his first world title?
2008.
Correct, it was. And in 2007, how many points separated Raikkonen, who obviously won, and Alonso, who finished 3rd in the championship?
3.
It wasn't. It was 1.
Oh.
Hamilton and Alonso finished on 109. Obviously, Hamilton finished above, I believe, because of more race wins. And then Raikkonen on 110. So probably the closest championship in recent history.
Too much scrapping going on between Lewis and Lando.
Question 9. Who was the first Mercedes driver to win a world championship? And it was in 1954.
Fangio.
It was Juan Manuel Fangio, 5-time champion. Obviously not all with Mercedes. And then final question. In the first championship in 1950, how many points did the driver who won the world championship, who was Nino Farina, how many points did he finish on?
60.
He finished on 30 points, which won him the title, which you compare to 21 with Verstappen, 395.5. Obviously come a long way. Not
more
as
races
many.
Now.
Yeah, I mean, there was 6 races, I think. And you didn't get 25 points for each
6
race
races
either.
with 30 points.
Yeah, I think it was
Five
got
points a win.
7 or 8 points for a win back then. So I believe that is 8 out of 10. Which obviously getting the 2007 one wrong and the 4 teams winning in 2020. But I think 8 out of 10 is a very good showing. Going to be hard to beat.
Right. George Russell should have won that Sakir Grand Prix, but wrong tyres.
Yes, it was. But a decent showing, I think, from you there. Happy?
Cheers, man. Not too bad.
I think 8 out of 10 is going to be difficult to beat.
Bit annoyed about that Sakir one.
Yeah, but I think a very good showing. So, obviously, before we go, we got 1 week in between now, I think, for the Brazil Grand Prix. We've got a bit of a break. Any predictions you think from in terms of who you think is going to be who do you think is going to take pole?
It depends, because normally it's a Ferrari that takes pole because they seem all season to have had the one lap pace over Red Bull. But after this weekend, you don't know. I don't know if they were just saving it for this weekend because they knew something bad was going to happen.
Yeah,
or
who knows? I'm going to go with Perez. I reckon Perez will get pole. I don't know why. I just think he might. What about you?
I reckon Charles Max.
Yeah,
if the Ferrari
safe
comes back,
bet.
safe bet. But if the Ferrari comes back, Charles, and then if not, then I reckon Max. I mean, it would be from a Mercedes point of view nice to see them again challenging, but obviously move a bit further down again, altitude wise. I mean, and Mercedes will be a bit more draggy. But there's not apart from that long sort of
Yeah.
Not straight,
knows?
but straight. Brazil, there's not really a lot of straight line.
No.
Oh, there's the well.
Back-to-back DRS zones, I
Yeah.
think, might favour the Red Bull in the race, definitely. But yeah, I think I'm gonna go with. I think it's hard to look past the Verstappen win at the moment.
Yeah.
I think that Red Bull's just too dominant. I think, but I want to be different, so I'm gonna go Perez win. I'm gonna go Verstappen second. I'm gonna back Hamilton again. And I'm gonna put him third.
Okay.
Although
yeah.
I think a Ferrari might get onto the podium this week, or like in a few weeks.
I'll go Max win. Sainz, Hamilton.
Decent. One from each team.
Gonna back the Ferrari to bounce back and not be quite as bad as
That's
they were.
fair enough. And if we're gonna look at a surprise for the race, who do you think is gonna maybe either outperform the car's pace or outperform expectation?
I'll go Bottas again.
Yeah.
I thought he did well this weekend, qualifying especially.
Yeah.
Got a bit unlucky with the poor start, and then obviously fell victim to Ricardo's onslaught at the end. But they got a good point. There's only, I think, what is it, 2 or 3 points between them and
it's very close between
Aston
them and
Martin
Aston
now.
Martin now, isn't it? So.
But like we saw this weekend, from last weekend, Aston Martin looked great, and then we're kind of nowhere. So
I'd go my surprise. I'm gonna go with Kevin Magnussen. I'm gonna throw it out there, a bit of a rogue one. I think Brazil, as we saw last year with the incredible speed that the Mercedes showed, I think definitely speed is key in Brazil, and I think the Haas is very good in a straight line. And I think I'm praying for a bounce back of this week. Not really gone very well for Haas, so I'd like to see them doing well again. So I'm going to go with K-Mag.
Okay.
So I mean, I'm hoping that next time we go racing in Brazil, it's going to be better than this week.
Yeah.
It'll be hard to do worse, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think hopefully it'll be a good Grand Prix. I think we'll finish off there. And if you guys have any suggestions for things you might want to see in the next episode for Brazil, leave them in the comments. Please like and subscribe. That would be nice to show the support. On Instagram, if you want to ask any questions that we might answer in later episodes, that'd be nice. And thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.